NFL owners voted the other day, Bob, 32,
unanimously.
32-0.
I was surprised by that. 24, I think they needed, right, to get that vote.
Yeah.
And I knew there'd be some pushback a little. I thought there would be because there is still the prospect of injury if these guys go over there and play. But they said, no, they're 100% behind it, which makes your job even more important than it has been.
Yeah.
Chris?
I mean, here's the funny thing. We started Pittsburgh Flag Football League back in 2009, and I can tell you all the athletic directors, gym teachers, principals that looked at, myself, and hats off to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Marchinski, Joe Lofton, Kevin Ackerman, all these guys that have helped kind of really grow the game at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
But it started even long before then, just getting kids in rec leagues. No one really took it seriously. And now it's at a point where it has reached and elevated a level where now, because you have some small colleges giving scholarships away, and then just the elevation of females in sports and their performance, it now is a different avenue. The one thing I always tell parents when they're interested in having their daughters play is, flag football is very similar to rugby in the sense that it's not full contact, but it's a come as you are sport. If you have blazing speed, fantastic. If you're tall like my daughter Sydney, you're 5'10", 5'11", that's great. But you don't have to be. Right now we're coaching the Big 33 team that's going to compete this weekend against Eastern PA, DC, and Maryland. We have a young lady on our team named Nirmala, a student over at Carrick, senior. She's 4'8". She's
That's awesome.
Same height as my 9-year-old. It's like my 9-year-old daughter. But it's a come-as-you-are sport, and so there's not a profile. It's not like, oh, I play volleyball, so if you don't have the height, you can only go so far.
Having said that, when we get to the highest level in L.A. at the Olympics,
Yep.
it's seemingly clearer than ever that NFL players are going to be there. And my take was, having watched last year's World Championship, Austria against U.S., and the Austrian team looked like a bad YMCA pickup team. I'm like, what is Lamar and Jamar Chase going to do to these guys? You talked me off the ledge, Chris, on a couple of levels. One, other countries have a chance to ramp up. Two, every NFL team is going to put at least one guy in the portal, so to speak, here. So you could have guys representing other countries. And then three, that it's not just about the NFL making money worldwide, but it's about presenting the opportunity for kids around the planet, and you were just in Ghana,
Yes.
to play a sport that's very accessible, as you just mentioned, and also inexpensive. Like, this is a good thing for kids around the planet.
Absolutely. And this is the thing and the only reason why I would even have the perspective that I have is because of that trip I recently just came back from in Ghana. So one of the primary challenges that we saw when we're over there, and the individual I met with were from the IFAF and from different federations of each of the 9 countries within, supporting the continent of Africa. But one of the big challenges that were there, with the exception of South Africa and Nigeria, and a lot of the countries, you can't. It's not even about money. It's not about money. It's, do you have access to go buy a football? And so I said this to the representatives from NFL UK and NFL Africa. At the end of the day, we're cleaning up the drills and everything. We were on the field 4 or 5 hours. I said, what would happen if all 60 of these footballs just got stolen or you can't miss it? He's like, we'd be in a world of trouble. I said, so there's no like a Dick's Sporting Goods. There's not like a local sporting shop. He's like, no. He said, and that's one of the biggest challenges. So when you talk about accessibility, it's not just about the field space. A lot of it is, do we even have the footballs and the flag belts and the equipment? So what makes the game of flag so accessible is that the reality is it's cheap. As long as you have space and knowledgeable people teaching the skill sets, it's going to grow. Now, as it relates to what the NFL is proposing now and is going to go forward with the IOC, the thing that we were talking about this yesterday, because when you reached out, I said, oh, hold on, let me give you some insight on this, because the reality is most people, this is sort of a niche sort of industry, I guess you could say, flag football, adult level and kids level, but it is growing massively. Right now amongst girls, over the last 5 years, volleyball has been in a steady uptick, competitive volleyball, but flag has just gone through the roof. Here in Western Pennsylvania alone, we've outpaced girls lacrosse. And we did it in, obviously with the Steelers, their support, the Rooney family, and the fine folks over there. We were able to outpace this in 4 years. So we've got Western PA alone, 50 high school girls teams. So what does this mean from a pipeline standpoint for the Olympics? Now, as it relates to the men's side and the NFL players getting involved, like we talked about yesterday, the thing that I think that people are not talking about is the international play of this. So just because the NFL owners agreed and said, hey, we can all offer up one player to participate, that doesn't mean 32 guys are now going to run and play for the U.S. national team. you've got a lot of talented men and women that have played on the U.S. national teams for years already, competed in international competitions, and done extremely well. Our women's team still needs work, but the men's team, I would argue, is pretty much there. And this isn't like a one-time thing. This is over a span of 8 to 10 years, every other year playing at the World Games. What this is going to really do is help add gasoline to the fire of the growth of flag football on a global basis.
Like the dream team basketball,
Exactly.
you said.
Exactly. And so, like, the example that I've been using when I'm talking to people about this the last few days is, when the dream team came out, everybody was aware. I was 15, 16 years old. Everybody was aware we were going to go over there and handle business and just, basically destroy everybody. But did the European audience really know? Well, as soon as they found out, what happened? We have the result of the NBA today, where it's not, European born players are not the majority, but they are definitely some of the more popular.
Yep.
A lot more of them. And so it allowed them to say, oh, you know what, we've got to pick our game up. Making this announcement now, I would argue that this is now going to give every country a little bit of lead time to kind of get caught up to speed, because many of the countries already have their national teams put together. It's just a matter of, do we have enough players? Do we have a big enough pool? Well, now if you can start pulling guys from NFL rosters that already have dual citizenship or whatever the citizenship requirements or heritage that ties back to a certain European or African country or country in Asia, this now gives an opportunity to go, you know what, let's get so-and-so from the Seahawks, from the Steelers, from the Browns, wherever, get them on our team. Now they become like an ambassador right now as a lead up to where it's going to start pulling even more talent out of these countries to get their teams ready. Now, will they perform? Will they do it at the highest level? We don't know. But to just say there's going to be a wholesale chopping of the current USA men's national team, I think that's a bit aggressive. The idea is there. We want to promote the game any way, shape, or form. But the last thing I think the NFL or the IOC or the USA wants to do is risk losing. You don't want to risk losing the game that we've invented in Los Angeles in the first time ever.
No.
And then it look bad. You don't want that. So it's going to be a unique opportunity. And I think, again, the real growth is going to be on the international scale.